Well, with just a few days to go, the build-up to the budget has hit fever pitch. Demonetization has caused considerable short-term disruption to the economy. Can the budget provide the necessary stimulus to put India back on the high growth path? Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on this special show. Over the next 60 minutes, top ministers from different states will join us to reveal their budget wish list. Not just that, all of these ministers are part of the GST Council, which is leading the negotiations on the landmark tax reform. So is it goodbye April for the GST, and is a July rollout more likely? We will pose all of these questions to them during the course of this show. Joining me today, K. Pandeyarajan, Minister in the Tamil Nadu government and representative of Tamil Nadu in the GST Council; Krishna Bairegowda, the Minister from Karnataka, also representative of the government in the GST Council; Hasib Drabu, the Finance Minister of Jammu and Kashmir; Hemanta Biswa Sarma, the Finance Minister of Assam. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the show. The Finance Minister, when he addressed the media at the end of the meeting of the GST Council, quipped that the state of the economy differs on the perspective of which state Finance Minister you speak to. So we thought it's best to get as many as possible on this show to really get a sense of what is going on with the economy. But Mr. Gowda, let me start by asking you about the impact of demonetization on the state's revenues. What exactly has been the impact on revenues post the 8th of November? Because the Finance Minister suggests that in fact state governments are seeing a pickup in revenue and not a decline.
So, as you rightly pointed out, there have been unexpected fluctuations in declarations filed by many businesses. So we have seen unexplained surges in some of the declarations. So I think it will, once the December declarations come, which they will in the next 1 or 2 days, we will get a much better picture. But our state government officers have looked at several sectors, and their assessment is that there would be about 3,000 to 5,000 crore deficit in revenue vis-a-vis the targets that have been set for this period, that is up until March.
So, Mr. Gowda, you're saying that there is a fair degree of volatility in the data at this point in time, but you also believe that on the broad assessment conducted by your government, you're saying that there is expected to be a shortfall of 3,000 to 5,000 crore rupees just on the impact of demonetization?
Yes, Karnataka is, our current assessment is that there would be a revenue shortfall against the target somewhere in the range of 3,000 to 5,000 crores.
So, Mr. Gowda, let me ask you then, where have you seen the most impact? You're talking about several sectors having been hit on account of demonetization. Can you articulate for us which sectors have felt the maximum amount of pain, and where are you seeing job losses, if any, today?
Across most sectors, we have seen everybody reporting lower turnovers. The most prominent ones that perhaps have a wider recognition would be even automobile sales have come down. Most of the activities in the real estate sector have come down. Even retail of garments and activities related to garments have come down. People in different parts of Karnataka who used to come to Bangalore for jobs like in the garment sector, like in the construction sector, we have got anecdotal reports that they have been let go of their jobs. So there are job losses in a lot of construction and service sectors, and transactions of automobiles, transactions of properties, all these, even retail sales have also come down. So we notice that there is a decline across most of the sectors.
Okay, Mr. Gowda, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Let me bring in Mr. Pandeyarajan from Tamil Nadu for his assessment of the impact of demonetization on the state's economy. Mr. Pandirajan, you probably just heard Mr. Gowda there taking us through the sectors which have been most severely impacted: construction, automobiles, real estate, retail, garment manufacturing, and so on and so forth. Mr. Gowda also there talking about a revenue deficit of between 3 and 5,000 crore rupees. Can you take us through what the state is in Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, Tamil Nadu also has reported a certain decline compared to, say, October, November and December have been very weak. But somehow, compared to the past year, our dip is not as sharp as what my friend Mr. Gowda is saying from Karnataka. It's not been as sharp. Partly, we've been studying this whole process of revenue collections, and all the logic that he was giving is also applicable to Tamil Nadu. The migration related aspects and the reduction in jobs, which especially of the casuals and laborers of that kind, there's been a reduction. Some of our cables, especially Tirupur, for instance, which has seen a certain impact. But it's as yet not getting reflected strongly in November, December revenue collections per se. One, because of the structure of our revenue collection, is very different from
if I may interrupt you, sir, you're saying that it's not yet showing up in November, December. If I may ask you, has there been an uptick in revenue collection in comparison to the previous year?
Yeah, I'm given a data of some, little unbelievable numbers. It is a little higher compared to the previous year, but previous year we had a particularly bad phase. As you know, that was the, cyclone phase quarter. So it's not really very strictly comparable. So it is actually 10% higher than the previous year. But compared to what we were doing in October, it's far lesser, in the sense that is the challenge we have here. So, because that was the worst quarter we had. Tamil Nadu had October, November, December of 2015.
Okay,
so it's purely not comparable.
So you're saying that there is a base impact. You're saying that there is a base impact. If I could ask you month on month, between October of this year, November and December, you're saying that there has been a decline. Can you take us through those numbers?
There's been a decline. Yeah, so marginal decline compared to, normally we have a spurt in November, December, especially in December when we file the returns or whatever. So normally there's a certain spurt. That spurt vis-a-vis October is not there, really speaking. Normally, October, November, December will be like this, where we just kind of nicely taper upwards kind of a thing. So that is not there. It's showing a flat and marginal lesser trend. So if you have to distill out and say, I think the impact of demonetization is a 5 to 6% dip in our potential revenue. What would have happened but for the demonetization? That's what we are able to make an assessment. And this is on a base of around 68,000 crores. I'm only talking of commercial taxes part of the income. So the dip on that, if you do a 5% on, say, 70,000 crores, we would really talk about roughly that number that he is talking about. So 3,200 crores kind of potential dip. So if you ask me, is it exact replica from with last quarter? It's no. But last quarter was really the worst quarter for us. What we would have expected to collect, we are lesser by around 5-6% in this quarter.
Yeah. Okay. And also, before I move on to the others, again, I understand that this is largely anecdotal data at this point in time, but what is the sense that you're getting in terms of job losses, especially when it comes to contractual and temporary labor today?
Yeah, in Tamil Nadu, as I told you, there is a significant loss as far as the contract labor is concerned, especially in the garment belt. We do see that impact in the last, where they are directly attributing kind of a thing. I see a greater impact on the lower level, very micro level retail trade, where you see the physical impact very visibly there. Okay, so that's what I'm more concerned. And of course, the agricultural, the village level impact of demonetization is also quite visible. So I'm more concerned of the medium to long-term impact of these things. So if what Arun Jaitley says is that this is a very transient kind of a thing, I really hope it is true, because it's, no, it's actually anybody's guess. How long this will last, how quickly will they remonetize is a question that is what uppermost in my mind. I understand lots of money has been pumped into these 5 states where elections are due now. So there's a certain diversion which visibly is impacting states like UP. I believe the crowds have gone down in the ATMs there. We don't seem to we don't see any reduction in the queues as far as ATM is concerned. I think there is a differential treatment being meted out. States like Tamil Nadu, where you don't foresee an election in the near future, I don't think we are getting as much of funds as is being given to the
so you're saying
5
that
election states. That's one of our concerns.
Okay, so you're saying that there is differential treatment being meted out, and perhaps the cash is being disbursed to states that are election bound. I have no way of being able to corroborate that. That is a claim that you make. Of course, I'm sure the government will hit right back defending against that. But Mr. Pandya-Rajan, let me ask you about the GST, sir. The next meeting of the GST Council is on the 16th of January.
All that I would say,
government...
Yeah.
The government hopes that there will be a breakthrough on the crucial issues of dual control and cross-empowerment. But, a plain reading of the conversations that we've been having with state finance ministers seems to suggest that the issue of compensation, which ought to have been done and dusted by now, is back on the table and open for discussion and debate. Now, given that, do you believe that the passage of the legislation in the budget session is at all possible?
No, compensation issue now has been settled. Yes, there was a key issue which got raised in this last meeting, as I was telling you, partly because of the demonetization. Many of the states think their revenues may not be high enough in this particular year itself, and putting a 14% growth rate, the compensation to be paid may be much higher than the original 48,000 which was estimated. When initially we said the cess-based compensation fund gets created, that was meant to be around 54,000 crores. So there was a gap of around 6,000 crores is all that the government had. Because constitutionally, due to the 122nd amendment, central government is committed to compensate the losing states. 8-9 states would lose collectively, say 45 to 48,000 crores is what they worked out initially. Now all these numbers, you need to wait till the fitments happen. The fitments have not really been done, so the slabs have been agreed, but it could be having a wide variation. So now what the states have asked is really add another clause which says the compensation fund would not be populated only by the 3 kinds of cess: the green cess, luxury cess, sin cess, as they call. So only these 3 things may not be enough, in which case central government or the GST Council will have the option of moving any other revenue as GST Council deems fit into the compensation fund. All that is being added is this. There was some resistance, a lot of discussions, but now finally they've agreed to include that. So I think this is an issue which has been settled now. They just want the legal wording.
Mr. Pandya-Rajan, just hold on, sir. Just hold on. Let me also bring in the Finance Minister of Assam, Mr. Hemanta Biswa. He joins us as well. Sir, thanks very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18. We were just having a conversation there with the ministers from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka on the impact of demonetization on the state's revenues. Both seems to suggest that there is a potential dip of between 5 to 6% on their revenues. Can you take us to what the picture is like in Assam at this point in time in terms of what you anticipate with revenue collections?
Yeah, in Assam, in the month of November, we registered a growth of 11% in our revenue. And in the month of December, we registered a growth of 21% in our revenue. So far, we are not getting any negative impact of demonetization as of now.
Okay. You're saying that this was up year on year, sir, the figures for both November and December?
Yeah. I am giving you year on year. The 2015 November compared to 2016 November, we registered 11% growth. 2015 December, month-on-month basis, we registered a growth of 21% in our revenue.
Okay, a month-on-month growth of 21% for the month of December. If I were to ask you then, sir, to explain to us why you believe your revenue collection numbers are looking as good as they are, because other states are not entirely convinced. They believe that the data is volatile at this point in time. How do you explain the numbers that you have seen? And
No,
does that correspond with what you're picking up on the ground in terms of the state of the agri growth, industrial growth, and so on and so forth?
No, I think the finance minister of the country, Mr. Arun Jaitley, has, in the BJP's national executive, has informed that except West Bengal and Arunachal, every state has registered positive growth during last 2 months. That is in November and December. The percentage may vary. First of all, the impact is so far. Initially, there was a problem, but because people were allowed to collect, deposit their old tax in old currency, so there was some area has been cleared. So that was a bonanza for the state. Subsequently, in Assam, from very first day, we have ensured the labor payment takes on time. Tea garden doesn't face any problem. So in Assam, cash flow was, from very first day, it was under good, and I can say that it was comfortable. So in Assam, there was no much impact of demonetization negatively. But positively, here is a big growth of digitalized economy.
Mr. Biswa, I don't know whether this kind of growth in collections is sustainable or not. As you pointed out, perhaps because people were allowed to sort of use the old currency, at least to pay property tax and so on and so forth. Maybe the numbers have been shored up to some extent by that. Do you believe that these numbers are sustainable, sir?
I think now my impact on the ground that normally in this entire year we are having 12 to 13% growth in the right from April. I think January also will have that kind of growth, 12 to 15% growth we will have.
Okay. And in terms of the growth as far as agriculture is concerned, in terms of being able to draw in fresh investments, can you give us a sense of what you're looking at this point in time, Mr. Biswa? And also, if I could connect that then to the fact that we've got a union budget coming up, what would your key expectations be from Finance Minister Arun Jaitley?
Yeah, two things that in state we don't have different revenue, different economic yardstick that what have been projected in the central government. But so far, the Rabi crop or agriculture activity, MOU signed in the Pravasi Bharatiya Sammilan, so everything looks good. Initially when demonetization took place, we collectively expressed some of our concern to Indian FM 2 months back. But now, after 2 months, I don't think so there will be any negative impact on demonetization, because if you, all the finance ministers which are in your panel will agree that in the month of November also, central government has released us devolution money more than what we usually get. Suppose I'll just give you an example. In the month of November, we used to get, every month in Assam, we used to get 1,350 crore as a devolution of money. But in the month of November, they released us 2,800 crores. So, from the
sorry, how much did they release?
Normally I get 1,350 crores, but in the month of November, they released us 2,800 crores. So it was more than
2,800 crores.
So in September, there was some dip, but in November, they not only covered that dip, they also increased the devolution. So I don't think so that day when Bengal finance minister was saying also in the meeting, as of now, in the hands of the state, there is no statistical tool to suggest that in some way there is a negative impact. Apprehension, assessment, analysis is there. But when you go to hard facts, we gain by devolution, we gain by tax collection, and people are getting for a cleaner transaction. Now, people are transacting their money through a cashless way. Now, tax collection become more easier, transparent. So, we are actually stepping into an era of cleaner economy. So, I think there is no statistical tool as of now in our hand to suggest except Bengal and Arunachal, there is a negative impact on demonetization.
Valid point that you make, Mr. Sarma. Before I let you go, sir, let me ask you about the possibility of the GST rollout now, because you've been party to the negotiations at the GST Council. What seems to be a realistic timeline now? Should we work with the 1st of July as a possibility for the GST?
Yeah, on the 16th Feb, we'll close the cross-empowerment issue, because now there is a almost consensus on table. But Union Assam is of the view, because 5 states is on election, and we are expecting new finance minister to join in our panel, or maybe the old one. So he says that we should not close the issue morally and ethically till the finance minister of other 5 states also join in. So final decision, I think, although we'll cleanse the issue on 16th Feb, but finally it will be, seal of approval will be put somewhere in the end of March. So I think the 1st July is the realistically we can look for the GST rollout, July 1st.
July 1st is a realistic timeline for the GST rollout. Hemanta Biswa Sarma, the Finance Minister of Assam, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Gentlemen, I need to take a quick break, but we will come right back and continue our discussion on the state of the nation. We're in conversation with top finance ministers and ministers of state from several state governments. Back in 2 minutes.